In 1999, researchers set up a wine display in a supermarket and alternated between French and German music on different days. When French music played, customers bought French wine over German at a ratio of 5-1. When German music played, the ratio reversed. But here's the most important finding. Only 14% of the shoppers said music had any influence on their choice. The other 86% had no idea. Their browsing behavior was being steered, but they couldn't feel the hand on the wheel. I'm Daniel Fox. I built Entuned because of studies like this. Let's talk about what music actually does to the way people browse. We like to think that shopping is a decision-making experience. You walk in, you evaluate options, you choose the best one. But the research tells us a completely different story. That wine study was published in the Journal of Applied Psychology, and Nature also covered it. It's one of the most elegant demonstrations of priming in consumer behavior. The music didn't make people like French wine more. It didn't change their taste or preference. It just made French wine more mentally accessible, more top of mind, so that when they scanned the shelf, their eyes and their hands drifted toward it. This is a fundamentally different model of browsing. People aren't evaluating every option. They're navigating by feel, by association, by whatever the environment makes salient. And music is one of the strongest salience drivers that we have. There's another layer to this. A study published in the Journal of Business Research in 2000 discovered what I call the familiarity paradox. When shoppers heard unfamiliar music they didn't recognize, they actually spent more time in the store, but they perceived themselves as having spent less time in the store. The unfamiliar music disoriented their sense of how long they'd been browsing. Familiar music did the opposite. People spent less actual time, but felt like they'd been in there longer. Now think about what that means for browsing. Unfamiliar music extends the browse without triggering the "I've been here too long" alarm. People explore more shelves, more categories, more products, and they don't feel like they're lingering. That's the ideal browsing state. This is one of the core reasons we use generative music at Entuned. Every track is inherently unfamiliar. It's never been heard before by a consumer. And according to this research, that novelty is a feature, not a bug. It keeps people in the exploration state longer. But browsing isn't just about time, it's about what state you're in while you browse. And a 1997 study in psychology and marketing showed that the path from store environment to purchasing behavior runs through emotion. The environment triggers an emotional state, pleasure, arousal, a sense of comfort. And that emotional state determines whether someone approaches or avoids, whether they linger or they leave, whether they pick something up or walk past it. This means that music doesn't just set a backdrop for browsing, it shapes the emotional filter through which every product gets evaluated. A shopper in a pleasant emotional state literally sees the merchandise differently than someone who's irritated or bored. And if you're wondering whether you should even bother, a 2012 study in the Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services settled the baseline question. They compared music versus silence across 550 shoppers. Any music, regardless of the genre, the tempo, or the volume, produced 8 more minutes of dwell time and more spending than silence. Music doesn't have to be perfect to beat nothing. The bar for baseline impact is just being there. Music affects browsing at 3 levels. It primes what people reach for, and that's the French wine effect. It controls how long they browse. That's that familiarity paradox. And it shapes the emotional state they're browsing in. That's the pleasure pathway. None of these operate through conscious awareness. Your customers won't tell you about the music and how it changed their behavior because they genuinely don't know. I'm going through every study in this space, about 28 papers of real data, no fluff. So if you want to understand what's actually happening in your store while the music plays, this is the channel. Subscribe. And if you want to put this research to work, Entuned generates music that's built on these principles. Free tier, free forever. There's no credit card. Just go to entuned.co, E-N-T-U-N-E-D, and the link is in the description for you.